Happy Monday, happy Monday, fantasy fans. You think I'd get that right after saying it every week? I'm Nick Capozzi. This is Razzball Radio on the Fantasy Sports Network. Look, I understand that there's a great majority of you out there who are not fans of Monday. But I'm going to tell you why you should like Mondays. Because every Monday, we get the head football editor from Razzball.com, Mr. Jason Longfellow, to join us. If that doesn't turn you around on Mondays, I don't know what will, Jay.
Yeah, thank you for having me, as always. Today's a special day, actually. I'm planning on going to the Air and Space Smithsonian Museum here in DC to go check out Interstellar on true 70 millimeter film. So let's hurry up and actually let's just finish the show now.
So
I'm
sorry,
ready to go.
you want us to just kind of rush through this so you can go watch a movie?
Well, let's see.
Let's put all cards on the table, Jay.
I can do the whole entire show right now. Bears suck and the Steelers are hilarious. That's it. We're done. We're done. That's a cut. I'm going to go see Matthew McConaughey in space.
All right, listen. I mean, that's you pretty much did sum up this weekend. However, because there are people out there that need quality information, let's try and give it to them. Let's kick off with the Chiefs beating the Bills 17-13. So Alex Smith, meh. Anthony Dixon, meh. Well, he wasn't kind of mad. He had 9 carries, 62 yards. Jamal Charles was fantastic. But let's talk about the running back situation. Fred Jackson made a surprise return here for the Bills. And Bryce Brown finally had a good game. 7 carries, 35 yards, 6 catches, 65 yards. This is a mess. You want no part of this backfield. But if you were somehow sucked into the vortex that is the Bills running back situation, how do you see this shaking out rest of season with Freddie back?
I mean, the way it is now, I think it'll be for a couple more weeks. Because to be honest, Fred Jackson did not look 100%. He looked less than 100%. To be fair,
He looked like 62.735%. I think.
Maybe 59%. I don't know how the math works out on that, but I'm pretty sure mine's better than yours. My estimation of percentages, but.
Probably.
No, I mean, this is how it's, especially with a Thursday game coming up. I still think it's Dixon and Brown. I still kind of like Dixon a little bit more, but honestly, it's really a tandem you want to stay away from. And I think Jackson will be safe, depending on the Thursday game. Let's see how he progresses, but probably with a little bit longer rest time after that, I think he'll be good to go in about 2 weeks.
And when was the last time the running back situation was good for the Bills? Do we have to go back to Thurman Thomas?
Yeah, I think we do. Definitely.
All right, let's talk about the Dolphins beating losing to the Lions 20-16. Matthew Stafford finally has a good game, probably because Calvin Johnson was back. Talk to me about why you think Golden Tate is still a legit number 2 receiver with Calvin back.
Well, I mean, I think that game showed that you can have 2 receivers in an offense to get points. I mean, of course, Calvin Johnson did what he does, which is get 100 yards on the touchdown. But Tate was there right with him. Right. It's what he does.
It's actually on the top of his resume. 100 yards and a touchdown, guaranteed.
Exactly, and also destroyer of worlds. So, I still like Golden Tate as a wide receiver too. I don't think you should expect him to get constantly over 100 yards, but we like playing the comparison game. If it's between Golden Tate and say Vincent Jackson, I'm going Tate every single time.
It's another black hole in terms of running back situation here with Bush, Bell, and now Theo Riddick. Riddick might be a little bit more interesting. He had a good game a couple weeks ago, but now that looks like Reggie might be lame again. Which running back, if you had to pick between one of the 3 for the rest of the season, which would it be?
I mean, I think you still have to go Bell because he'll get the most carries. Whether or not they're effective remains to be seen. I mean, I was very high on him coming to the season because Detroit seemed like a team primed for a nice rushing attack, even with all the principles involved, but I do like Riddick slightly more than Bush just because I see Bush as a risk play because of the injuries, the ineffectiveness, and Riddick has that home run threat that's nice, even though, his home run yesterday was like 3 yards. But, that's going to happen sometimes.
That was a firm bunt single down the third baseline.
It's not like he's a 10-team, 12-team solution, but out of those 3, I'm leaning Bell in that format. But if you want sort of like a bench potential guy, Riddick can be that guy, I think.
All right, Tannehill wasn't great. And just a quick note, Lamar Miller obviously having issues with his AC joint. Not his air conditioning, but his actual AC joint. Start anybody else on Thursday because I'm not buying that at this point. All right, moving right along because we got so many games to get to. I wish we had more time here on Monday with you, Jay. Cowboys beat up the Jaguars in London. Tony Romo looked pretty good, or at least healthy. And finally, big game for Des Bryant, 6 for 158, 2 touchdowns. DeMarco Murray did what he does, 100 yards, 31 receiving yards as well. But Denard Robinson, that's 4 good games in a row for Denard Robinson. If we were redrafting today for rest of season, is he a top 15 running back right now?
Yeah, he's actually I think he's right on that maybe 13, 14, or 15 area. Yeah, I think he's probably a third, fourth rounder if we were drafted today. He's definitely shown that he can make those plays. I mean, like we were talking about last week, sometimes he's not present during the game because he'll get off that big, like a 30-yard run and then just kind of go for 2-yard, 1-yard gains. But those are points. Those are points that he's given you. So while he's not the most consistent back, I think when you look at it as a full game back, he's definitely in that top 15 area.
All right, one of the most exciting games yesterday, and it was exciting more because it was messy than good, but it was still very exciting. 49ers 27, Saints 24. Saints almost come back and won this with no time left. Jimmy Graham with a big touchdown catch, but they ruled that he pushed off, and he did. But big game for Graham, 76 yards, 2 touchdowns. Big game for Mark Ingram. Are you believing in Mark Ingram right now?
I mean, I
you have to, I guess, actually. Sorry,
yeah.
That was kind of a dumb question, Nick.
Well, I mean, it's actually a good question because, you know me, I've never really believed in him. I would still like to have some doubt, but it's hard to. I mean, we've, sans the injury, he's had a really productive year, and he's played enough to where it can't be a fluke at this point. I mean, he could be he could be a little bit lucky, but he's still at a base, probably an 80-yard, 100-yard back, and that's certainly a running back 1, a running back 2 at this point. So
yeah, Breeze not very good. Kaepernick not very good. Tell you one thing, this is what I don't get. Everyone keeps saying how great Trent Baalke is at moving up and down the draft board and how much depth they have, and you see it. Guys go down, they're still competitive, although they haven't been as good as you thought. But you think they could get some skill guys because everybody dropped the ball yesterday, literally and figuratively. It was a mess. No one could hold on to it. I don't know how they haven't been able to develop a wide receiver there because that's what Kaepernick's missing. He made some good throws. They just weren't caught. I don't usually go on a rant, but there's kind of a mini rant. Jay, listen, we're going to go on a tiny little break here. Then we're going to come back. We've got more games to talk about with Jason Longfellow, a.k.a. JayWrong. You can follow him on Twitter at JayWrong, not Jay Right, because you think he's always right, but it's actually JayWrong. We'll be right back. Razzball Radio, Fantasy Sports Network. Welcome back, Razzball Radio, Fantasy Sports Network. Nick Capozzi, Jason Longfellow. We got to do this show kind of quick today because Jay's got to go watch a movie. So that's awesome. You bringing a date on this movie?
Yes, I'm bringing my mother. So, yeah.
Well, that was kind of a roller coaster.
The beauty of Matthew McConaughey is transgenerational. If that transcontinental and generational, and yeah, it breaks oceans. So.
All right, the Ravens beat up on the Titans 21-7. It was, even though the score was closer than it was kind of a beatdown. Joe Flacco, not sexy. He's such a funny guy. Like when it comes to fantasy, it makes me crazy. He's officially in the makes me crazy category, but here's a guy who's been unbelievably consistent this year. Justin Forsett, 9 points a game minimum out of this guy. Where's this guy ranked as a running back if we're redrafting right now, rest of season?
I mean, just based on the numbers, he'd have to be top 5, right? I mean, it seems silly to think about it. I'd prefer him in the top 10, top 15, but the numbers are there. And, if someone would have told me this was possible at the beginning of the season, I probably would have punched them in the mouth. It just seems impossible. Silly, in fact, but it is what it is. I'm not sure if the Ravens should get any credit for the roster move. It was kind of out of necessity, but here we are, and he's a running back 1. It seems real ridiculous that I'm saying that, but he is. He's a running back 1.
Are we going to see anything more out of Bishop Sankey? Because he's given you kind of 15 carries, 60 yards, no touchdowns. That's pretty much been what he's done since he's got the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think so. It's probably damning praise there, but the Titans don't really have any other viable options as a back. I mean, they have Sean Green, they have McCluster, but they're not impact guys. Sankey could be that guy. They just need an offense, to put it in our parlance of our times. They need some kind of offense, and it's a process for them because they're going to a rookie QB. It's probably something that'll happen as the rest of the season progresses, but it'll probably be too late because you're already deep in the playoffs with the guys you have. So.
The New York Jets muck it up. Could be going for the number one pick, which can be a pretty good draft next year. Beat the Steelers. I don't know what's stranger here. Somehow, against all excuse me, against all odds, Big Ben's 6 touchdown game per game streak ended. That shocked me. I did not see that coming. But I really didn't see the Jets beating the Steelers. What a mess. Michael Vick was okay. You made a great point. You need to read the rundown every Monday with JayWrong at football.razzball.com saying that it's his annual Watch Me Earn a Contract game for Mike Vick. Although he wasn't that spectacular, but listen, 10 of 18, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, also rushed for 39 yards. Martavis Bryant, is he official now? Has this guy arrived? Because remember, Marcus Wheaton actually had a really good start to the season before it got a little mucky again up in there.
I think he has. I mean, say what you want about the Steelers, especially losing against the Jets, but they have an offense with with a lot of great players. Obviously, with Antonio Brown and Wheaton Bryant, I think will share that secondary, or I guess the leftovers, and they can do stuff with it. I mean, obviously, it was a bad game for Brown. He had 2 fumbles, and Bryant stepped up. But yeah, he has this ability. It's not a fluke. I hate to put comps, but he kind of reminds me almost like I mean, not an Antonio Brown, but a guy who can just make those yards after the catch viable. He's a guy who can move almost like a Keenan Allen, not with the height, but with the ability to spread the field once he has the ball.
Well, it only took you 15 minutes to get a Charger in.
Yeah.
With no Chargers to talk about this week.
I'm lost with the bye week. I just don't know how to deal with it.
Of course, you can play Daily Fantasy with us every week, DraftKings.com, enter promo code Razzball. And holy cow, I wonder how many Daily Fantasy lineups were messed up. 2 fumbles for Antonio Brown. I mean, look, that's just going to happen. There's weeks like that. But, man, a lot of people crying in their beer. I killed it at DraftKings this week because I read Sky's column, of course. What day of the week does Sky's Daily Fantasy column come out?
Wednesday, first article of the day. So every Wednesday you can visit Sky, reminisce, enjoy. Someone called Sky. I don't know why he called him that but it's always blue.
Yeah. He's from Washington. They're a bit hippie up there. The Falconeers 27, the Buccaneers 17. I was expecting kind of a big game here for Matt Ryan. I actually decided to go with Aaron Rodgers over Matt Ryan in my daily fantasy lineup, which was awesome. Steven Jackson makes a resurgence, 16 carries, 81 yards, and a touchdown. The guy I want to talk about, though, in this game is Charles Sims, 8 carries, 23 yards, 2 receptions, 17 yards. This is on par, as far as I'm concerned, with the Detroit backfield situation or any of those other you don't want to be invested. But if you are, what do you think about Charles Sims?
Yeah, I've been recommending picking him up if you have the spot open. Like if you have this usage spot that, you have Roy Hillu or something on your bench. I would definitely pick up Sims just as a kind of a prospect pick. It was rumored that he was the coaching staff's pick in this last draft. And it seems obvious from the get-go that Smith wanted nothing to do with Martin, even though he said all the right things. And we're seeing that play out, of course, with the help of injuries and whatnot. But I think Sims is the guy at the end of the year. I think Rainey still gets some measure of touches, but I have a feeling it's Sims for the rest of the season. And while it won't be the most dynamic numbers he'll put up, I think he can maybe sneak in and get some good games as the schedule fleshes out.
Mike Evans continues to evolve into a mega receiver. 7 catches, 125 yards, and a touchdown. I'll be curious to see where he goes next year. Okay, real quick. We don't really have much time, but I want to do it. Let's get Broncos and Raiders. Peyton, 5 touchdowns. Just a typical Sunday at the office for Mr. Manning. Julius Thomas catching 2 of the touchdowns. None for Demaryius, but he does go 11 for 108. Just a cluster bomb on the Raiders side. That's where the first overall pick is going as far as I'm concerned. Raiders might be moving to San Antonio too. So my question, though, in this game, Mr. Longfellow, Ronnie Hillman, 6 carries, 13 yards. Now, coming back from an injury, I get it. But C.J. Anderson, 13 carries, 90 yards, 4 catches, 73 yards, and a touchdown. Is this a hot hand situation, or are you worried about Hillman?
Well, I mean, they've been saying it's a hot hand situation, but to be fair, whoever gets the most carries and receptions against the Raiders is going to be, by de facto, the hot hand. I mean, it's the Raiders. So I probably wouldn't read too much into it. I still like Hillman over Anderson. I still like Hillman over Ball. I don't think Monty Ball showed us anything. maybe from the reports out of practices that he's looking good, he's looking fit, and they may try to get him in there. But I'm sure Ball will do something that will allow Hillman to still get the majority of carries in that offense. I still believe in Hillman.
All right, listen, I'm trying to keep the time here so you can get to that movie. That we have a priority straight. But we're going to go to break. Razzball Radio, Fantasy Sports Network. More right after this. Welcome back. Razzball Radio, Fantasy Sports Network. Jay Longfellow, Nick Capozzi. We are talking Sunday's games. So, Cards beat the Rams 31-14, and you made a great reference again in the Monday rundown every Monday at football.razzball.com. Head football editor Jay Longfellow. Carson Palmer, a question you never thought would be relevant ever. Carson Palmer's injury, is it going to hinder the Cardinals' title hopes? Wow. And you know what? You're absolutely right. So he tears his ACL. Stanton was okay when called upon, but it's really the defense. As good as the offense has been, it's the defense that carried that team. They turned it around. Cardinals beating the Rams 31-14. We're just going to have to deal with Drew Stanton. Now, the only upside here of Stanton, and his less than 50% completion percentage, the one guy that Bruce Arians went and got when he went to the Cardinals was Stanton out of Indianapolis when he left there because he knew the offense. What do you project? I don't want to talk about Michael Floyd because he made me cry. But what do you project for the Cardinals wide receivers here with Stanton at the joystick controls?
I mean, it'll be a little less than, obviously. I mean, it's not like Palmer was really lighting it up, but he had that ceiling. Drew Stanton has no ceiling. His ceiling is his floor. And that's not necessarily bad, but for them to have an effective offense, I think you'll see Andre Ellington become even more of a force at this point. I mean, you have to assume that they're going to operate as safely and as best as they can, and that means running the ball a lot. That means the short passes, maybe to Carlson. And I think you'll see Floyd and Fitzgerald fill more of a slot role when they do the things that they do. At least, when Carson Palmer was injured, they had an offense. They still had an offense, but it wasn't as lethal as it could be. So I'm okay. As you discussed, I'm okay leaving Floyd in the dust. I'm kind of over that now. Fitzgerald is always, who knows what you're going to get. But I still love Ellington there. I think his role becomes even that much more important.
He's a monster. He is legitimately a monster. Michael Floyd is not. Michael Floyd is like a pussycat. Drop him. Drop him for John Brown, who is unbelievably owned in a boatload of league. And every time this guy goes out and has an over-the-shoulder catch, a la Willie Mays, it's like this is the only way he knows how to catch a ball. He had 2 of them last week. Big one on the touchdown reception this week. So go get John Brown. All right, your Seahawks beat up the Giants 38-17. That's good news. But I don't know how to read into Russell Wilson's line here. He goes 10 for 17, 172 yards, 2 interceptions. But then has 14 runs for 107 yards and a touchdown. To me, this looks like Pete Carroll and the Seahawks are kind of desperate. They don't know what to do. They don't want Russell Wilson running the ball, but it seems that they don't have a choice. I mean, break this down for me, man.
Well, there's no Percy Harvin to throw to, that's for sure. No, I mean, asking Doug Baldwin to be your primary wide receiver is asking for trouble. I mean, I don't think he's a terrible player, but they have 0 offensive weapons lining up in the receiver role, and it shows. I mean, I always hesitate because I don't think Russell Wilson is a game manager at its truest definition.
No, he's not. He's a legitimate talent.
He is, and he can put the ball where he wants it, but is he as consistent as the great quarterbacks? I don't think so. Whether or not that's the scheme or the player itself, I think it's a little of both. But the reason you have him on his team is his rushing yards. So he's still doing that. He, even the Giants look terrible. They couldn't stop a runny nose if they wanted to. So that plays into it. But I think Rustin still gives value. I still like him over Kaepernick because I know they're compared to the most in fantasy. So
different.
Still like Wilson here.
You know who I see Wilson as is a younger, more mobile Drew Brees. Just imagine, if you will, you pluck Drew Brees, take him out of that offense. You put in Dangerous with the weapons he has there. Okay? Jimmy Graham, Brandon Cooks, Colston for what he's still worth, Kenny Stills. The rushing attack, even though it's difficult for fantasy owners to deal with, still pretty good. How is he a top 5 quarterback then?
Wilson,
Yeah.
for me, no, not yet. I think he's more in the he rotates around the top 10 area just
No, no,
because of
I'm
his.
saying if he's at the control of the
Oh,
Saints.
I think he has
Way
to
to
be.
follow, Jay. You're already at the movie theater.
I know I am. I'm just thinking of Matthew McConaughey. Yeah, you know what? If he's with the Saints offense, there's just so many weapons there. It's hard to see him not in the top five. So yeah, definitely. Unless
Um,
Drew Brees, he didn't get there by himself. He has those weapons too, and his decision making has been really trashy lately, and it's been going on for years. And he's uplifted by that offense and by Jimmy Graham.
yeah, and
So
that's what I'm saying. I mean, if Russell Wilson was in that situation, I'm taking
right.
Wilson over Breeze. Okay, Marshawn Lynch scores 4 touchdowns. Blah 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 blah. That's not relevant. Man, did he kill!
Not at all.
All right, listen, we got to save some time here. I wonder how soon people in Chicago started throwing Italian beef sandwiches at their television. 55-14 for the Pack Attack. Aaron Rodgers, 6 touchdowns and a half. I feel like I'm playing Madden back in the mid 90s. 6 touchdowns and a half. I never thought I'd see this in the NFL.
Right. It's actually worse than that. It's like a Tecmo Super Bowl type of scoring line. So
Give it to Bo Jackson.
right, exactly.
Um, you know what? Okay, we're not going to talk about how good the Packers were. The data is there. Let's talk about, are the Bears this bad? Brandon Marshall finally has a good game, 8 receptions, 112 yards and a touchdown, but are they this bad? Is this a team that's going to be blown up in the offseason? Because I'm kind of starting to think that could happen. And I wouldn't have imagined that going in. This was a dark horse Super Bowl team for a lot of people.
Right. I mean, you looked at this team, at least fantasy wise. You saw Alshon Jeffrey, you saw Brandon Marshall, you saw Matt Forte.
You
And
know?
by that, you're like, well, Jay Cutler has to be a top 5 QB this season.
And bad defense. They're going to be behind.
Right. And they're trash. They're just a complete dumpster fire. And I don't think they're much better than this. I think the Bears who their record says they are, and that's a pretty bad team. Their defense just looks disinterested in doing anything. And their cover no one offense, which we called it last week, they seem to have paired that with the perfect 3-and-out offense. So it's like there's a lot of synergy going on with both their offensive defense being terrible. So you have to give them credit for that. This team is unbelievably frustrating in that they have probably
All right, stop talking about it because you're frustrating me.
right. I mean, they have 3 of the top 10 fantasy producers, or at least should be, if you look at the paper, top 15 fantasy producers.
Jay, I got to wrap this up, man. You're going to
Yeah.
have to put it in tomorrow's column at Razzball.com. Nick Capozzi, JayWrong fellow. We'll be back tomorrow with T-Hole, the prettiest man in fantasy sports. This is Razzball Radio, Fantasy Sports Network. Sorry to cut you off, Jay. We'll have you back soon. Enjoy the movie. Bye.